everyone, and welcome to Bordertown Strange. I'm Pam. This is my co-host, Jess. And joining us tonight are two members of the Bordertown Paranormal Society. We've got Enzo Searle, he's retired USAF, and Mark Bannon, who works in the aviation industry. And they're both going to bring a lot of sharp technical eye to this case tonight. So tonight
we definitely needed.
Oh, for sure. Tonight we're diving into one of the most compelling UFO cases on record, the Rendlesham Forest Incident. 3 nights in December 1980 with strange lights, structured craft, and military witnesses. So settle in and jump into the chat. We're unpacking what happened in those woods, finding out why it still matters and what the evidence will really tell us. And yes, we will wrap up with a round of the Notebook game. So, woohoo! We want to welcome all new listeners and members to the channel, as well as first-timers in the chat. And if you're not joining us live, but listening on replay, thank you and welcome to you as well. So, yay! Welcome, everybody. Before we get started with our What the Weird Word, just you have some housekeeping to do?
Just the usual. We want to thank everybody who follows old and new and old and noob subscribers. We appreciate you so much. If you're hanging out on Facebook right now, take a really quick second to just like and share. Go to our page and like us if you haven't done that yet. And if you're hanging out on YouTube, go ahead and give us that thumbs up, hit that bell, subscribe, and all that fun jazz. We appreciate you so much. Also, if you're interested in our podcast and you're kind of new, go ahead and check out our back catalog. It's completely free on YouTube. You can go back to day one, although that day one's a little silly.
little
Exactly. If you are listening on your favorite podcast provider, take a quick second and give us some stars. Give us a rating. We would appreciate it so much, whether you like us or not. Give us a star or something. Yeah.
Let us know.
And also, if you have a story or a favorite topic you would like to hear more about, just let us know. Throw it up in the chats, throw it in the messages, or just send us a message on our Facebook page. We would love to tell your story or hop in on your favorite topic. Not that we don't have plenty of our own.
We
oh my God, we have so many ideas.
Everybody else is interested in too, though. For sure. Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Before we get started with the What the Weird Word, Jess pulled something that we thought might be kind of fun.
Yeah, I have a little surprise for everybody.
Yeah.
So we have a brand new time traveler old photo. Can you go ahead and pull it up to the big one?
What do you mean the big one?
The big one. There should be a third photo that's the entire shot.
Did you see the third photo?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no. I will find that and bring it up. But not right this second. It'll take me a minute. Oh, no.
Okay. So there is a new old photo out that is claiming to prove that there are time travelers. And this one just came out. It's a 1941 photograph taken by Edwin Roscombe, who was a famous photographer at the time. And this, once Pam gets it all pulled up, is a long line of African-American students lined up to go into a local cinema. And they are claiming that in the first photo, the boy is holding an iPad, an Apple iPad. You can even see the little apple on it. And that the girl on the second photo is holding a plastic bottle of water.
Here, let me switch to. Let me switch screens here. Somebody sing or do something cool.
Technology, the bane of our.
Here's what we have. This is what I have in email. Is that one and that one?
That's all it sent you?
That's all it sent me.
Okay, well, we'll just go off of those.
I was sure it was me.
The third one's been erased from existence.
It's normally me.
Hold on while we're chatting. I'll email it to you again.
Okay, cool. I'll leave my email.
Okay, so the iPad that we saw there.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to think it wasn't real. It does kind of look like an iPad. It has the little Apple logo
Maybe.
It looks like hanging out on it.
Looks like a book to me. I kind of look
don't know
through
if
there. It looks like a binding on the back side.
This is him and that's the same boy over here.
Seeing that.
No, that's a different one.
Is it? Oh, it looks
The
just,
boy with the supposed iPad is at the
Looking at
very
his
front of
tie.
the line.
his tie looks the same in the hat.
Do they make black iPads?
Yes, they do.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
Cool. Let's see who all's in the chat while she's doing that. We've got Ginger in there. Hey, Ginger. There's Julie. Cheryl King's in there. Hi. There's Ian. Hi, Ian. We've got Chris. And we've got, let's see, we've got Sharon. And we've got Tony. Hi,
Okay.
Tony.
I sent it, so watch for it to pop up.
Okay.
No.
Sorry about that. I thought it went with it.
No.
So,
it's
an interesting detail. The kid with the what looks like the iPad. For those of you who don't know anything about the history of cinema, people taking notebooks in with them to see the movies used to be illegal because it was their form of plagiarizing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so people who were huge fanatics of the movies would walk in. There we go. So he's at the very, very front if you zoom back out a little bit.
Oh, he sure is. Yeah. Let me see
Yeah.
if I can. Oh, that's as far in as they'll let me zoom.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he's carrying a copy of the book the movie's based on.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Maybe. I would assume it's a notebook because oftentimes, especially kids, they wouldn't so much stop them because how much are they going to jot down and are they going to sell it to the papers? Really?
Right.
You know, what was happening was people would sneak notebooks into the movies with them and in shorthand write down the premise of the movie and sometimes even were fast enough to be able to write down the dialogue. And then they would sell that
Okay.
for papers and stuff like that. So they could literally, you know, and magazines and whoever else might like them. So it was really their way of plagiarizing. It was their way of sneaking a movie camera in with them,
How
basically.
cute are they all, though? Look at them.
Aren't they?
Dressed up. Yes.
Well,
And then,
going
of course-
to the movies used to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's an event.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the girl in the very middle there, they're claiming that she has a plastic water bottle, which, of course,
It
I
looks
think
like
this
her
was
purse.
1941.
It looks like the bottom of her purse.
That's what I
Mexican
thought
water
of.
bottle.
Yeah.
The reason why I brought this today was because, number one, these are always fun. And number two, I thought this one was completely debunkable. But I just thought it would be something fun for everybody to kind of look at. This is the new time travel picture that's going around this week.
This, you can see us all when we look at them. We're like,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, that looks.
Yeah.
It could be a purse. It could be glass. I don't know.
It kind of it looks like this is the bottom, and see how that's kind of the like a
yeah,
pocket
yeah.
style.
Where it's inset
Yeah.
there.
With a flap over the top. Yeah.
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 Mhm. Or almost like she's holding a clutch kind of upright
Yes,
a
it
little
kind of
bit.
be like this purse right here, except on its side.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Just kind of fun.
can see
Just
that.
something fun before we get into the depths of Rendlesham. And I think we need to do Word of the Week first, too.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let me drop this screen. Pull up Word of the Week. I looked for one that would go with kind of what we're talking about tonight, and I thought this would be a fun one. Luminescence, because we're going to get into a little bit of luminescence tonight. Luminescence is the emission of light by a substance not caused by heat, often produced by chemical reactions, electrical energy, or other unusual processes. And I thought it would fit tonight because Rendlesham is like full of reports of glowing objects, the pulsing lights, and light without an obvious source. There, a lot of the witnesses described colors shifting and objects illuminating the forest floor, and the light behaving in ways that didn't match aircraft or flares. So, luminescence, woohoo!
Whoop, whoop.
Yay. Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of lights tonight.
We are, for sure.
Yeah.
You
We're going to be
light
light
up.
heavy.
Sorry. Everything's a song.
Mm. It would be with
All
me
right.
sing. I cannot. So
Are we ready to hop in?
we are ready to hop in.
Dive in.
Okay. So first of all, I thought it would behoove us to talk a little bit about the history of the places that we're going to be looking at here, so you can kind of get an understanding and maybe like get in your mind's eye what this area looks like, because we're going to talk about a little spread out place here. Not a huge area, but big enough. So the Royal Air Force Fields, Bentwaters, and Woodbridge. This is the two bases that we're really going to be talking about in particular. There are two, at the time, U.S. air bases positioned nearly right beside each other, with a swath of forest right nearby called Rendlesham, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So, both of these are only a few miles apart from each other, about 8 miles from Ipswich, 70 miles northeast of London. I was trying to figure out a way to get you to judge where it kind of falls. They were both built in 1943, and starting in 1944 were used by the Royal Air Force during the Second World War. On March 16th, 1951, RAF Bentwaters was transferred to the United States Air Force by the British Ministry of Defense. And on July 8th, 1958, both bases became home for the USAF 81st Fighter Wing. After the end of the Cold War in 1991, the USAF returned control of both bases to the MOD on July 1st, 1993. And just so you'll know, today, the twin bases are no longer active and are now known as Bentwater Parks. The Woodbridge site is still used for training exercises and houses a Cold War museum, and has filming locations for television and film companies. So that's currently what it is today. And we'll show you some photos later of kind of what that area looks like now, because it's really become a tourist attraction, basically.
Of course.
And if we skip over any like acronyms and you don't know what it is, just throw it in the chat so we can clarify. I know Jess said MOD, and if you said what it was, I missed it.
Ministry of Defense.
Yes. It's kind of like our Department of Defense. So
yes.
So
yeah,
that's what it's called
now. At the time of the Rendlesham incident, which was in 1980, both bases were one of the largest NATO complexes in Europe, housing stockpiles of nuclear weapons that were secretly being stockpiled there. They weren't supposed to be there, but they were there. With about 12,000 personnel under the command of Wing Commander Colonel Gordon Williams, the Base Commander Colonel Ted Conrad, and Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt. And you're going to be hearing a lot about Charles Halt tonight. Yeah. So the forest itself, Rendlesham, lies between Bentwaters and Woodbridge, east of Ipswich. A large area of it was cleared for the Woodbridge site, in fact. Part of the Sandlings Forest. It's part of the Sandlings Forest, which also includes this Tunstall Forest and two smaller ones between, Woodbridge and Aldeburgh, I think it's how it's pronounced, in Suffolk, most of which is owned by the Forestry Commission.
I just know Ian's at home going, whoa.
Yeah, I know. Ian's, I'm sure, going to hear all sorts of wrong words tonight.
Is Ian going to be drinking every time they say something wrong? Oh, he's going to get destroyed tonight.
He's probably already got a buzz at this point.
Yeah. He's going to get hammered tonight.
Yeah. So also in this area, some places you're going to hear us talking about. About 5 miles away on the southeast coast of Suffolk at Oxfordness is the Oxfordness Lighthouse, which we're going to mention a few times because a lot of Rendlesham got blamed on this one light, although it seems completely ridiculous once you read through all of the reports.
Yeah.
It also has the lighthouse and several other military buildings rumored to have been used by the NSA, which is the National Security Agency. Among the rumors in 1980 that the buildings were being used for top-secret experiments, the official statement was that they were used with the over-the-horizon radar named Cobra Mist that monitored all launches made by the Soviets and possibly the Chinese. This area was decommissioned in 1973 and is used today by the BBC World Service. To the south, near Felixstowe, is the RAF Bodsey. I can't read my own writing. Bodsey Chain Home Radar Station, which monitors the launch of Nazi V-2 rockets from Germany during World War II. The area is also known for dark military secret experiments with military weapons such as laser technology and death rays. It was also an area used for military testing on radar defense systems and was a test firing range. The development of atomic weapons were carried out in military huts along the coast, and in August of 1956, the nuclear dividers, detonators, and outer casings of Britain's first atomic weapon, the Blue Danube, were developed and tested in those very buildings. So, and we'll probably mention a couple other little places around. There's even a military base, I think another 8 miles away, that I'm going to mention at least once. But this whole area, besides the Rendlesham incident itself, is actually known for its hauntings. It's famous for these green fireballs that shoot through the area. It's, of course, steeped in folklore, which all of, Great Britain and beyond is.
Yep.
Deep, deep folklore.
While this base isn't one of them, there are several other bases in England that I've been to that, as you say, they have a lot of ghost stories. Oddly, a lot of werewolf stories for at least some of the ones I've been to. So,
yes, Great Britain loves their werewolves and hellhounds.
Yeah,
they're fans.
I mean, who wouldn't want a hellhound for a pet?
I don't think I would personally.
Oh man, I'm telling you, a Cerberus would make the best house pet ever.
Yeah, definitely that.
I said Suffolk wrong.
Yes.
Sorry, Ian.
Yeah.
Suffolk. I was trying to say it. We say it here with an IK, Suffolk.
Suffolk.
And so I was trying to get the underneath of it, and I think I put an L in there. I think I said Suffolk. My apologies. Anywho, moving on. I hope you're ready to get drunk tonight, Ian. The Rendlesham incident itself that we're going to be talking about, in case you don't know much about it, of course, took place, like Pam said, over the course of 3 nights. Actually, a little bit more than that. There's some stuff that happened a little bit before and a little bit after, and even a couple months after that, too, which aren't talked about as much. It happened over the course of Christmas Day in 1980, clear through until the 28th, 29th in 1980. So that's the period of time we're going to talk about. So does somebody want to do, I think we're going to give a basic timeline of how these things fell, and then we'll go back and talk a little bit more about all the interesting, high strangeness stuff that came along with them.
All right. I do have a timeline of the several days.
Okay.
Starting in December 1980. Night 1, December 26, 1980, early morning hours, 3 a.m. Security personnel at RAF Woodbridge observed unusual lights descending in the Rendlesham forest. Initially suspected a downed aircraft. 3:15, a small response team enters the forest. Witnesses report a small triangular craft, metallic in appearance. Surface glowing with red, blue, and white light. Strange etched symbols on the exterior. Close encounter. Craft lifts silently through the trees and vanishes at high speed. Physical evidence left behind. 3 triangular indentations in the ground, broken branches overhead, and later radiation readings above background levels. Dawn, that same morning, area secured, incident reported up the chain of command. Daytime, December 26th. Daylight investigation confirmed ground depressions in a triangular pattern. Elevated radiation at the site and nearby trees. No aircraft debris recovered. Night 2, December 27th through 28th. This is the most documented phase. This is the one everybody talks about. Deputy Base Commander Charles Holt leads a larger team into the forest. Holt carries a portable audio recorder narrating events live. Observed phenomenon. Pulsing red light moving through the trees. Bright white object emitting smaller starlight lights. Lights maneuver intelligently, stopping and changing direction abruptly. Radiation checks. Radiation spikes recorded again near earlier landing site. Most controversial moment is a beam of light is observed projected downward near the weapons storage area, shot upward into the sky. Halt describes this on tape in real time. 4 a.m. Objects accelerate away and disappear. Team exits forest. Aftermath, 1981 and beyond. Halt submits an official memorandum to the UK government describing the events. An incident quietly classified as unexplained. The UK Ministry of Defense later states no threat to national security and not considered extraterrestrial. Decades later, witnesses stand by their accounts, some claiming the event was far more serious than officially acknowledged.
Okay.
So-
Does anybody else have a timeline they want to do? Because I have a few more than that.
Do you?
Oh, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so mine starts out even earlier than Mark's does. December 25th, 1980, 11:30 p.m. at the Eastgate. Airman First Class John Burroughs and Burroughs at the Woodbridge base. Staff Sergeant Bud Steffens out on patrol spotted some lights out in the forest past the locked East Gate. They noted red and blue lights just above the tops of the tall pine trees due east. After watching the lights move below the treetops, they opted to leave the base to check it out. December 26, 1980, 12:06 a.m., rendezvous at the East Gate. Staff Sergeant and Security Area Supervisor Jim Peniston and John Burroughs and Bud Stevens together. At 12:20, Peniston and Burroughs and Airman Ed I always forget how to say his name, Kervensack, because it doesn't sound anything like it's spelled. Leave the East Gate. 1 a.m. in view of the object, and I really broke it down here because there's so much information. It goes through the next incident is December 27th, 1980, between 1:30 and 2 a.m. Airman Lori Ann Bowen guard at the East Gate. Lori observed red-orange fiery spear of light with an eerie blue-white corona on the north side of the Woodbridge runway, some distance away and above the tree line. And at the exact same time, one report of the same lights came in from Corporal John Tremontosi and 4 personnel in the control tower who said they observed it for an hour and a half. Security Police Second Lieutenant Bonnie Taplin and Master Sergeant Bobby Ball were sent out to investigate and experienced a light beam hitting their vehicle while a ball of light raced through it. The logging road incident between 7 and 8 p.m. December 27th, 1980, with Lieutenant England and Peniston exiting the landing area after investigating, saw an eyeball-like object glowing and pulsating in the trees. The landing site investigation, which is what Mark really hit on, then happens December 27th through 28th, 1980 at about 11:30 to 12 a.m. is when they left out for that. That insanity happens, and then later on, January 17th, so this is like a month later, or not even a month later, a couple of weeks later, law enforcement Steve LaPlume was at the East Gate with Senior Airman Wendell Palmer, and they witnessed a light racing across the sky and changing altitude abruptly. It soon disappeared, but then returned later, coming much closer, emitting red, green, and blue lights from underneath. It was cigar-shaped and around 100 yards in length. They did not officially report it at the time because they said we didn't want to be lumped in with those nutters.
Nice.
Another encounter that I found that happened the night of the 27th into the 28th was reported, but it was reported at the nearby RAF Watton base. Watton base? Watton. It's the same night as Charles Halt, his big, huge thing. 2 police dog handlers reported several figures shining lights into the sky right outside of their base, as if they were like signaling back to whatever was happening there. So I thought that was another really interesting one. I do know, like, I wanted to get a hold of, there was a book I wanted and I couldn't get it in time. It's called, I don't know if any of you guys got to see it. Non-Human, The Rendlesham Forest UFO Incidents, 42 Years of Denial by Gary Heselton.
I saw it. I did not read it.
I couldn't get it in time, so I was trying to listen to some of the interviews that he's done about that book. And he claims, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted the book so badly, he found 17 more reports and incidents, not from the military, but from the people who lived around the area that had gone into, like talked to newspaper people. And it also included a lot of Men in Black reports. And unfortunately, I couldn't get it in time, and it's not available on Kindle because he self-published it. So
That's why I didn't get it either.
yeah, stinks.
It does.
But anywho, do any of you have any more incidents than that? Because they were kind of all over the place.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. Basically, the night of Christmas, Christmas Day, like just before midnight, and the next few days like that. And I feel it's also important to, from my military type perspective, I was in the Air Force for 24 years, starting December of 1985. So 5 years after this, I have no personal knowledge on this. But one of the things about the military during the holidays, specifically Christmas and New Year's, typically, from my experience of all of it, is usually like if you've got like a larger squadron where you're able to do it, because that's when everybody wants to take their leave, everybody wants to go home and visit their family and all of that stuff. Well, of course you can't send everybody. You have to have some people. You only have so many people that are gone at any one time, so you can still do your job at your base. But typically they try and split it so that like half of your team is working like the week of Christmas, and then the other half is working the week of New Year's, so that everybody gets some fair time off and things like that. So you're working longer hours and all that. But I always pick the Christmas thing myself because I'm single, I don't have kids or family or anything like that, and it wasn't that big deal. Plus, it always actually meant more days off because Christmas Eve is like half a day. Like if there's still anybody, regular work going on the base on Christmas Eve, if it's during the week, there's nobody there after lunchtime. Everybody's gone. Christmas Day, no regular work unless, mission requirements have done that. And I've certainly been in those jobs before, working Christmas Day, which is not a big deal to me, but it's a big deal for a lot of people not to be there. So basically, Christmas Day, New Year's is kind of like regular business. That's not as special as like Christmas is. Christmas, okay, New Year's Eve day, you'll get like half a day maybe when you're working that week, and then you better be at work on time on the first. No out partying and carousing if you're supposed to be at work. But Christmas, for the most part, you're kind of getting the B team that's going to be working, on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve kind of a thing. And for maybe a day or so, 26th probably as well. It all depends on where it falls in the week in conjunction with the weekends. Because they try and give maximum time off kind of a thing to the troops that are out there, which is well deserved. But, I don't recall what day of the week it was for 1980, but you're probably going to be having not your 100% full force there on Christmas night, especially. There would be, basically that's when whatever your minimum is for requirements for, round the clock coverage, that's what you were going to get on Christmas night. So for the number of people that were there, they may not have necessarily been the most experienced. My experience has always been, it's usually like you let the younger guys take the time off on Christmas, and then, the older people that maybe haven't done the job for a while, taking over some of those younger guy positions like, garden gates and stuff like that. But I feel that's kind of important to keep in the back of your mind. This isn't your full readiness type position on Christmas night and, going into the 26th, early hours of the 26th.
Yeah. Enzo's right. Like, you're going to hear us talk a lot about the East Gate. That's where a lot of this launches from. And at the time, I believe it was Burroughs and another gentleman, They weren't even supposed to be together that night. Burroughs was out patrolling, or not Burroughs, the other gentleman was out patrolling and was like, hey, Burroughs, why don't you jump in with me? Because he was still new at the time. And no one was even guarding the East Gate. They just had it locked because there wasn't enough people on the base to sit there and guard every little thing. And
after
they weren't
midnight on Christmas night, nobody's coming in and out.
Yeah. And in fact, the very first really big encounter that they had at the East Gate between the two of them spotting the first really big thing that was happening there, happened only because at the last minute he thought, let's just drive past the East Gate. It's supposed to be locked, but we'll just do a double check, because they're bored. They're just out driving around doing their route that they're supposed to take, and they're like, let's go over to the East Gate and check it out. If they hadn't have done that, I don't know if this big first night would have happened, because they were the first ones that spotted it.
True.
Right.
And this is a picture of the East Gate that we pulled up, so you could see kind of what they were seeing through their eyes.
Yeah. So, Bud Stevens. He was the other guy. Before we hop into this, I just want to give everybody a heads up. The research on this is, like, insane. Everyone who was on that base gave a report. Everyone who was on the other base gave a report. Men who came in later gave reports. We have reports that weren't given at the time because they were too afraid to say anything. And you've got differing opinions. You've got different styles of writing. You've got people who only went out on the second or only saw the third night one. There's ones who saw it the first night and then saw it the third night. And it's all over the place, and all of it is like conjecture. Who was telling the truth, who wasn't, we have no idea. We are just going to bring you what we found, and then you get to decide.
Facts as we were given them.
Yeah.
And you'll even see there's people that were there at the same time that give completely different versions of what was occurring. So it's interesting how that all played out.
Well, that's like going into any room with a bunch of people who've witnessed something and asking them what they saw. Every one of them will have saw something different from their point of view. So that actually lends some credibility, because that's how things actually work. If they were all telling the exact same story, then I would be highly suspicious.
We couldn't bring everything tonight, but there is transcriptions of, I forgot his first name. Is it Tim Holt? It's Holt or Halt. Of his, he took a cassette player out with him. And basically anytime anything was worth recording, he would turn it on and he would record, and then he would turn it back off again. And that has been transcribed, and it's in Nick Pope's book. And it's also out on the internet too. So if you're interested, it's cool because it's real time observations by them.
You're getting his raw feelings where it's like, oh, that's weird, really weird.
Yeah.
Seeing lights appearing and disappearing through the woods and stuff.
Yeah.
And way more than just lights. They even talk about, like how they're feeling at the moment. It gets really weird. We're going to get into some weird stuff. So let's just start kind of like hitting them all and talking a little bit about kind of what happened with them. I mean, we don't have to dive into like huge detail on some of them, but some of them have some really interesting things that happened in them. So very first, I was talking about Burroughs and Steffens. They were the ones that kind of spotted this thing the first time when they came up to the East Gate to check the lock. So they said they spotted strange lights outside the Woodbridge base and just above the tops of the tall pine trees in Rendlesham, due east from their location close to the East Gate. Now, these are some really, really tall pines. I'm just going to let everybody know. The pines I know that you see there now are not the original ones. Rendlesham got messed up in the 90s. And they had to replant a lot, and they planted a pine that sits much lower. So you have to imagine that there was a lot of space from the ground to the bottom of the tree boughs. And then really a whole lot of trees, and I think most of them like climbed like 80 feet or something like that. They were talking about the largest trees were like 80 feet. So they're seeing lights not only in the trees and above, but down below where they can actually really see. So just keep that in mind as they're, we're talking about this.
And we do have, as we go on through, we'll show some photos taken of the area, and you'll see you don't see an overall view of the trees, but you can there's pictures of the bin next to the trees, and you can see that they're pretty tall.
Yeah. So Stevens pointed it out first. Burroughs said he looked to where he was pointing and saw what he later described as different colored lights, green, red, blue, and white lights, and that by the time he looked, the lights had descended down into the tree line. Both of them observed the lights, which were now deep inside the tree line of the woods, and had caused the surrounding forest to light up. So it literally caused like this glow among all the trees. Stevens said, "Is that normal?" And Burroughs said, "Nope, that's not normal." Because Stevens was new,
That would be enough.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm a nope right out of there.
So later on, Burroughs in another report mentioned a little bit more candidly about it after he had a time to kind of think about what it was he was seeing. He said it was randomly cycling. It was like a mass of colored lights resembling a Christmas display, which I'm sure he was reminded of because it was near Christmas time. The law enforcement supervisor and his patrolman then decided to drive into Rendlesham Forest to take a closer look. No attempt was made at this time by the patrolman to call law enforcement desk and to ask for permission to leave the base. Why they decided not to say anything about going off base may be related to the fact that both of them were armed and had no one with whom to leave their weapons. Because it was a U.S. base on British soil, they could not leave the base with their weapons. Yeah, just so you know. Every time
there would certainly be like extenuating circumstances, like because Burroughs kind of thought originally that an aircraft had crashed out there, and that's what they were seeing because they had seen something moving there, and then suddenly it's down amongst the trees. If it was a plane, then it's on the ground.
Then you don't have time to wait. You need to get
right now. In cases like that, I don't think anybody's going to say anything, but technically, anytime they went outside of that gate that we showed earlier, they're American citizens on British soil, and they're not supposed to be carrying firearms.
Yes. So. And this becomes pertinent later because later on we get to find out that a whole bunch of these gentlemen that were going out onto these groups to go and see this area or the lights would often sneak their handhelds with them because they were so scared of what they were going to find out there. And they were like, "Shh, I didn't take it with me. It was hidden."
No one saw anything.
Yeah. So they leave the East Gate. They drive out. They don't even ask for permission. They're just going to go check it out really fast. And if you want to, you can pull up that colored map, Pam. Okay. So they can kind of get an idea of where they're going to head out to. So they drive out to the T-junction, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's kind of splits off. So it's going to leave East Gate.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's the T-junction at the end of the East Gate Road. Stevens turned the car around in the opposite direction and they parked. So it kind of faced back towards the East Gate. I guess so, like, if he got nervous, they could leave really fast. They didn't have to worry about getting turned around. And this is where the high strangeness starts happening. And you're going to find this with nearly every incident after this where they get kind of close to whatever this light source is. They started feeling static electricity in the air. It felt really, like you've got a shirt on that's got too much static in it. It was here from this T-junction that they observed a large glowing white light some way off into the woods. They said they had a depressing, eerie feeling come over them that they couldn't shake. It was a sense of danger that something wasn't right. And then suddenly the white light started moving towards them. They decided... instead of calling it in because they didn't want to broadcast it out loud and sound like crazy people, they decided to drive back and call it in from the East Gate building. There had been a little guard building there. And they drove away and kept looking back over their shoulders, and it started following them faster and faster and faster. So I think they pretty much booked it back to the East Gate. Yeah.
I would.
No shit.
Yeah.
Let's
And
roll.
if you go look at here's the East Gate again, and I'm sure that's the little building that they were
That's the
probably
guard
going.
shack, yeah.
So yeah, that's not a lot of security there, you know.
Yeah. So they call it in. It ends up going to McCabe, right? Yeah. It ended up going to McCabe. He starts calling around, and he gets a group together to go out that way. One of which was Peniston, that we're going to talk about a lot.
Yeah.
He is the one that really brought forward
Peniston
the
and Burroughs.
brunt of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the meantime, while this group is gathering up and getting to the East Gate, they took it upon themselves to start calling all the towers and Heathrow to see if there was anything in the sky. And they're all claiming that they have nothing, that the skies are clear.
Julie said it was a Jurassic Park with T-Rex following behind kind of moment. Yep.
Yeah. Like, there was ripples in the water. Yeah. So they all gather up there. They're like, hey, Peniston, you go out there and check it out. Take somebody with you. He ends up taking, who did he take with him? Stevens chickened out. He took Burroughs and another new guy down with him. And they head down that way. So they get past the T-point and head on out. I can't remember the name of the...
I don't remember the other
Hold
guy's
on,
name.
I'm flipping through my information. Okay, so Peniston is under the assumption that this is a downed airplane or some type of a military plane or something, a device.
Which makes sense. I mean, that would be the logical.
Yeah, right there.
It does
between
absolutely
two-
make sense, because you're seeing kind of different lights flashing off in the woods, and you're thinking, you know, are those, you know, like flying lights, you know, what's come down? Even if the local towers are saying that there was nothing in the sky, you never know.
Yeah.
You know,
What's
what
on the
was
ground,
flying,
yeah.
what came in.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And again, being, December of 1980, them evil Ruskies might be planning
yeah.
a sneak attack on us on Christmas night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I
Okay,
mean,
so-
we've done it.
At the T-junction, they turned right, and then after a short distance, about 57 yards, they turned left onto the rough dirt track, 285 yards, known as the logging road. You're going to hear about the logging road later. It gets a lot of activity, too. Having gone past the end of the logging road and having entered the open field, they reached a point where they could go no further, so they ditched the Jeep. They end up starting to walk in, and unfortunately, they started getting a whole bunch of interference, and their stuff was cutting out. They couldn't get back with the base. So they started to leave like a little chain link of people behind so that they could call back to one another and get called back. It was like a fire line of call-ins.
Yeah.
So they left the new kid back with the Jeep, and him and Burroughs continued on in. Partway through there, they were losing even more. So he leaves Burroughs and walks in the rest of the way. And this is where he comes in contact with this insane light show. And what later on he describes as like a full aircraft that's triangle shaped with a weird fin on the top, strange writings on the side. And this is where we get the first incident of like super duper high strangeness. So he's talking about the tingling static, time slowing down. At one point he feels like time has slowed down around him, like he's walking through soup. Very reminiscent of Time Storm.
Yes. Yep.
Or the Oz effect. Mm-hmm. Did you guys want to talk a little bit about this? This is one of the biggest ones.
Well, as far as the time thing goes, they experienced like a missing time style of event where, as they approached, they did say it was like trudging through heavy mud or going through, a liquid or water or something like that, just trudging up there to this object. this craft that they saw there. And in total, they only spent a few minutes kind of in proximity to it, and then they backtracked out the way they came. And when they supposedly came out of there, they bumped into another security forces person that's like, "Oh, there you guys are." And he calls in on his radio. It's like, "Yeah, I located him. We can call off the search." They had been searching for him for well over 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Where to them, they'd only experienced walking into where this craft was, it was all lit up and all that, for a few minutes. So something's going on there, whether that's genuine missing time or just some kind of distortion where time ran differently next to the craft versus outside of it. There's no telling. There's no way we'd ever be able to tell that. But what they experienced was only a few minutes versus everyone outside of it 45 minutes plus.
And that kind of freaks a person out.
Yeah.
Pam and I actually had that happen to us.
I was thinking that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to give everybody at home what Enzo was talking about, they left the Eastgate base at 12:20 a.m. And when they got back to the base and got settled back down again, somebody made mention of the time to Peniston, and it was like 4 a.m. And they were like, "We didn't know where you guys had went. We couldn't get in contact with you. Where were you?"
Yeah, they were trying to.
And they were literally
with no response.
Yeah, they were literally less than a mile away from the base, but a butt ton of missing time.
And I may have my dates wrong. Was it the first night that Peniston actually disappears into the light for a little bit? Is that the first night?
I don't know that story.
I'm not familiar with that either.
No,
Maybe I'm dreaming it. No.
But there is so much information about this. I
Right.
doubt you're dreaming it.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear for the audience, Peniston was the one who much later reported touching the craft and having the whole having the download, which we'll get into later, and visualize seeing the pictogram hieroglyph design, whatever it is on the side of the vehicle, things like that. I don't recall. I mean, there was a point touched the craft and he experienced like a bright where everything. He said everything got bright, and then he was, of course, confused, like if a flashbang went off. You're gonna be like, what's going on? But I don't recall any part of the story where he disappeared.
If it came from anybody, I would guess it came from Burroughs. So Burroughs and Peniston had completely different versions of what they seen. Now, in Peniston's version, he left Burroughs behind part way and went on his own, but he glanced back at one point and realized that Burroughs had kind of followed it in, but stayed back at the first berm. There was like 2 large humps, like 2 berms that he had to kind of go over to get to the little area where this object was. And he said he left, Burroughs stopped at the first berm, and he said when he looked back, Burroughs looked dazed, like he didn't know where he was, and he just stayed still the whole time, like he was kind of frozen in time, which I thought kind of lent to the missing time aspect.
And that would be the case if time ran differently, or immediately around the craft, it would be different the further away you would be.
Yeah. So it may very well be. I know that Burroughs. I have not read Burroughs' own ideas of what was happening that night, but that sounds like maybe if he was watching from the other side, maybe he would have seen Peniston kind of disappear.
Or maybe I'm thinking
into that
I'm gonna
time warp area.
I saved it.
Well, yeah, because Peniston would have been moving faster than he could observe if he was going slower in time.
That could be it.
That's what I'm thinking. Another interesting thing we need to make note of, at one point, Peniston actually kind of looked underneath of the ship. And he said it was standing on 3 legs, but the legs weren't actually like a solid material. He said it was more like a beam of solid light that was holding this up. And this is going to come into play later on because they actually found markings, supposedly, from these 3 light structures, I guess you could call them, that was holding this up. Whatever this thing that had supposedly landed there. Um,
I'll keep digging.
yeah. So besides all of this, they also have this really weird yellow fog that is happening around them. You've got complete quiet too. And this is going to come into play later. Complete quiet. You got the Oz effect, the time storm thing happening, and it plays out a lot. I'm trying to think of anything else that kind of happened.
Well, they did report as they were approaching that area where the craft was that they could hear the local wildlife because there's farms nearby with farm animals, and like every base I've been to in England always, there was sheep somewhere just outside of the fence, it seemed. But there were also it's a particular type of small deer that lives in that forest that does make this odd barking sound, which you do hear on Colonel Halt's recordings. You can hear those barking type sounds from those deer in there, which all of it stopped abruptly as they got up next to whatever this craft was.
Yeah. And then restarted. I found when it restarts, it says, I found it very strange that there was absolutely no sound, although the silence did not last. All of a sudden, we were alarmed by someone or something screaming. I later discovered that this was the sound of the muntjac deer, the sound that would make if it was distressed. Soon after this, we heard more disturbing noises and also movement from the animals and creatures in the forest, all sounding very upset and frightened by something. I turned to talk to Burroughs about this unexpected activity, but he was back behind me in the darkness at this point and out of view. Then suddenly I heard birds taking off in the air from the trees some distance in front of us, making a deafening noise with the flap of their wings. The forest wildlife had come alive, and the creatures around me seemed to be in a frenzy. This activity had obviously begun in the region of the light ahead of us and was the result of some disturbance there. I felt the ground tremoring slightly under my feet and the sounds of the surrounding trees, foliage, and shrubbery being disturbed in front of us, and was startled to see deer and other creatures running by me going in the opposite direction. So we've just got like a mass disturbance happening that's just running the wildlife out of the area.
Ian said muntjac, terrifying if you don't know what they are. I bet.
Yeah. So this thing ends up, and it does this on several occasions, it takes off and flies out into a nearby farmer's field, and they actually chase it over there. And then it takes off again and goes back through the trees into another section, and it basically plays hopscotch with them. And they just chase it around for what they're assuming is they assumed it was a good about a half an hour to 45 minutes. And of course, when they get back, they find out that they were out there for much, much, much longer than that. They did mention, they did get close enough that it had a smell like burning fuel, hot airplane parts. They said it smelled like fumes. And he kept telling himself it must have been a downed aircraft because that it all kind of pointed to that. Yeah.
The old hopscotching part.
Aluminum actually has a very distinctive smell when it gets hot. So,
yeah. But anywho, a whole night of hopscotch and then back to the base again. If we go too deep in here, we're not going to get through all of the encounters. Okay. So they get back. They're getting asked by everyone. They find out how late it really, really is. People are excited. People are nervous. Another incident happens at the East Gate at about 5 a.m. that morning after they got back. They decided to position someone at the East Gate. Even though there had not been someone there positioned before, and that was Lorianne Buin, and she also got to see the lights come back, and she reported it in. It did pretty much the same thing, kind of played above the tree line and then ducked down under and created the huge glow in the forest in front of her. At the same time, they were getting reports of the same lights from the control tower. So the control tower was now finally seeing them, and they were reporting them in. At this time, they sent out a lieutenant and one of the security policemen out onto that road to kind of view it a little bit more. And they made it out to the logging road, and that is where it came over the top of them and shined a huge beam of light onto their vehicle. And then they claim that a ball light, a ball of bright light shot through the center of their vehicle and out the other side, and they turned around and booked it back to the east gate.
Which is interesting because that's how the Joplin spook light is explained a lot of times. It'll actually come through the vehicle. I did find it, and it's probably pretty close to where you're reading, and it was Burroughs. Peniston looked to his right and saw Burroughs engulfed in a huge beam of light, which appeared to come
That's what I figured.
above. Yeah.
Yeah.
It encompassed Burroughs. Then Peniston saw what had first appeared to be a sphere of light in front of him had dissipated and now had the appearance of a craft of some sort.
Yeah. Now, right before, and this one I found, I thought it was interesting. It wasn't in the main book. It's like a little offside, and I think it's because they weren't supposed to be out doing it. But right before the one on the logging road I just mentioned, right before that happened, Peniston and Lieutenant England went back out again really quick. I think they just talked themselves into it, like, let's go double check this. And they only made it as far as the logging road 2 when a huge the same ship came over the top of them, and it changed in front of them, and they said it started to look like a glowing eyeball that would like blink at them.
Yeah, that's weird.
And it flew off into the tree line and stayed there and just kind of pulsated at them for a little while. They booked it back in through the east gate again too. So they spent
there's a lot of grown men hauling butt.
There is.
To be fair, there is a thing where you can get lured too far away from like the home base to where now you can get easily swarmed or attacked by someone in really kind of idea. Where if you're getting, where something, skips ahead of you and exactly where you're going to start chasing it, you can get to a point where I'm too far out for help with, I get in trouble. So you're going to have a point where it's like, I'm not going to chase it any further because I either, one, I'm going to be chasing it until I reach the ocean, and I won't be able to chase it anymore, or I'm going to get to the point where I'm now isolated from everyone else and they can grab me. That kind of an idea. Mm-hmm. So, to give fair due to the folks on duty at the time, it may not have been just fear. It's like, there's some tactics involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, how far were they authorized to go out?
True.
There's probably a standard operating procedure, and, that's how they're trained.
They did point out that Peniston, he wasn't just shell-shocked from all of this. He was actually, it was like he was under some sort of compulsion to continue to and got drawn back to the landing site more than once, too. So that's a little scary.
Well, they also said it's because he touched the ship.
Yeah. Yeah, and he talks about how the ship feels, and, he had some pretty...
Said it was warm to the touch and had an appearance like black glass.
Yep.
Where said it was like just super smooth, except for where the hieroglyphic writings were on the craft, which he described as like running his fingers over sandpaper compared to the rest of the skin of the craft.
Yeah, that's an artist rendering.
A little bit of the looks like hieroglyphs. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. Like, I think he felt like he had kind of a I don't know, an experience with this thing that kind of attached him to it somehow. He felt like he got a download of some information too, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit too. It's kind of part of the, I don't know, I don't want to say conspiracy, part of the theories and stuff behind this, or what was going on behind the scenes kind of a situation. So now we're going to move into the big investigation. So they sent out a team. So Colonel Halt and Sergeant Neville's, along with Lieutenant England and Sergeant Bastinza, went out to the supposed landing site with like a lot of researching stuff, like a lot of investigating tools. So they not only took out a butt ton of lights, and I can't remember what they're called. What are those things called? I'll remember later. The big spotlights.
Yeah.
They took out a whole bunch of those. They took out Geiger counters to take readings. Good
Smart.
Lord, they took out everything.
Good idea.
Oh, and they took out a starlight scope so they could see in the darkness.
Night vision.
Oh, the light-alls. That's what they're called, light-alls.
Yeah, light-alls.
They're just the
Yeah.
big beams.
Light-alls are basically like this small, well, I say small, smaller than like a vehicle, tow behind a vehicle type of thing that they use on the flight line all the time, which has two really bright spotlights that move around. There's even like an elevated platform on it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
It's like
that's
a big old
probably
spot.
We were talking earlier about how large the trees are. This was the picture that I was talking about. You can kind of get a feel of they're just at the base of the trees. You can see the gentleman walking around.
Yeah.
Like
You can't even see the bottom of the first limbs. You can't
Yeah.
see them because they just set so high
They-
off the ground.
classic old growth stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is keep that in mind. If you go and research this yourself, you're going to find a whole bunch of naysayers that are going to say, oh, they were just seeing the light from the lighthouse beyond, or they were just seeing this or that.
I have a picture of that.
Because it's confusing to see it through the forest. Well, no, it's not confusing because there was a lot of space for them to look through just basically what was the base of trees.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
not nearly as confusing as you would think it would be.
Usually where the lighthouse comes in comes from that audio tape from Colonel Halt, where it's like I can see where it's getting brighter, like it's getting closer, like oh now it's moving away, which it's really kind of speculative and kind of loose, where the rotation of the lighthouse was about 5 seconds. And that's kind of close to when he's describing some of the lights where it's getting closer. It's moving away. It's getting closer. It's moving away. And it's not exactly 5 seconds. And he does it throughout because the tape runs for a long time. And depending on where you find the source of the tape nowadays, how long it is, you can get it to play. But because it was running the entire time he was out there in the forest walking around. So it was, I can't say it was like an hour or something like that, but it ran for a very long time. Basically had it on for most of that time. And actually, I've got a picture of like what the lighthouse looks like from
If you have
the
one,
spot,
that'd be great.
which let me just do this. We'll share it to the full screen here. Where this is from the spot where they had the craft on that, when everybody saw the craft and touched it and saw the hieroglyphs and blah, blah, blah. From approximately that spot, I want to say it's about 7-ish kilometers away from that patch of the woods to where that is. This was with an extreme telephoto lens from the landing spot. And you can sort of see, we even have other pictures of it. This is a obvious thing, but this is the same angle. Not the whole lighthouse part. This is all pointing out to sea here onto the right, and it's shielded so that basically it's not lighting up the whole countryside on the other side, which would certainly draw complaints from people that had to live there.
For sure.
But so they were only seeing part of the natural light that would have come from there. And I'll refer back to the experience of the people that were, because 90% of the people that have come forward to talk about this entire event were all security forces from the base.
That's a good point to make. Because
so someone there at the base would know there's an observation. If you're observing a light flashing every 5 seconds off in this particular direction, I could see, like a brand new guy getting on the radio. Oh, there's a weird light I'm seeing off in southeast or whatever the direction was on the radio. The person on the other end is certainly going to go back sarcastically. It's like, yeah, that's a lighthouse. It's been there for 100 years.
Yeah.
But so you got the lighthouse out there, and I don't know if I had different pictures there. It's not there today. They've since torn it down, but and basically there's like this notch in the woods between where it was and where you would have had like a clear vision shot of it. All the rest of it is in this heavy woods, which you can certainly see in this photo. That you could certainly see it, like you wouldn't see it at all and just move your head a few inches one direction or the other, and you would see the light, kind of a thing, because that's some pretty thick foliage there.
Yeah.
So, could some of the stuff that they saw have been the lighthouse? Because we certainly described earlier that this is probably the B team, Christmas night. Christmas, post, the 26th in the dark, early, dark 100 hours in the morning.
Yeah.
It wouldn't explain the stuff that they saw in the sky. It wouldn't explain the stuff swirling around, moving up above the tree lines at all.
Or the colored lights.
Or the different colors, because of course, it's just white, that kind of thing. Plus, it is from their angle, shielded, where you can't see the full light during the full rotation of it because it's directed out to sea for ships.
Plus the feelings that they were getting, like the heavy pushing through soup feeling kind of thing. Yeah.
So, could some of it been that? Maybe a small percentage, but certainly not a full out, grown adults out there that are already kind of spooked because there's something weird going on, to something that's been there the entire time, because that lighthouse has been around for a long time, and anyone that would have been stationed at that base would be familiar on their first night of any kind of watch of looking around. It's like, oh, because that's part of of any kind of security forces kind of a thing, is being familiar with your local landmarks. Okay, there's a glow over there. Oh, that's because there's a town that direction. Oh, I see a red light flashing over there. Oh, there's a radio tower or something like that. You're going to familiarize yourself like day one of the job. So I can maybe understand, because there were certainly some younger guys, like we described earlier. It's Christmas, it's the B team, to be fair. No, nothing against those guys, but someone on the team, as they were calling stuff in, would have been like, yeah, that's a light. It's been there for 120 years.
They would have chuckled about it for years.
Oh, for sure.
And they certainly probably would have made fun of the guy. Oh, did you see the lighthouse again?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we made mention that on several occasions, the towers at both the bases mentioned having seen these light anomalies. And if anyone was going to know what a light was, if there was a lighthouse nearby, it would be the towers. The towers.
They would have a very clear view of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And would have for the whole time they had been there. So it wouldn't have been anything.
Yeah, and there would be there would be at least 1 or 2 experienced people on duty in the tower. It probably would be
with the B team on Christmas night. You're going to have somebody like, we know it. The guy on the radio is like, we know it's been there for a long time.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
Get a load of this newbie over here.
Okay. So they're sending the group of 5 out with Colonel Holt in it, and he has sent out a lot of personnel ahead of them with the lidals and the Geiger counters and stuff. They want to get the area prepped and ready so they can get out there and really look at what they're, getting into here. And the strangeness starts again. The crew is talking about feeling weird and that there's a strange static electricity in the air, and they cannot get the lidals to stay on, which is interesting because they're not electrically run. They run off of gas. They run off of fuel.
There are little gas generators in there.
Yeah, which had all been topped off before they went out there. They were completely full and running.
They're very dependable.
Yeah, but not on this night. They were not. They were not dependable whatsoever. In fact, at one point, they sent them back with the lidals they had to go get other ones, make sure they were full and bring them out, and they were messing up too. So we have that all going on. We also have that weird yellow fog that they keep reporting, just kind of floating around in weird patches in the area.
Which is interesting on its own.
Yeah. So they're out looking around. They've got the Geiger counters out. They get to the area where this thing supposedly sat. They find the 3 areas where the supposed legs would have sat at. And I think Pam's got kind of a picture of some of that.
Yep.
Oh, Enzo's got a picture.
This is a lidal. It's
nice.
You've got this big green thing, and it's got, as you can see on the top, 2 directional type spotlights, and the upper part of it, that's that elevated platform where you could raise it up higher or lower. So this is just something with tow behind a vehicle.
That's interesting. I did not have, that's not what I pictured in my mind. So that's cool.
And from what I can tell, that I'm looking at that same picture, and it says that is an actual lidal from that
time. Oh, from that base.
Yep.
Wow.
Cool.
So that's
Nice.
And honestly, most of my career, that's what we were still using, well into deep into the 90s. They have some newer ones now that have 4 lights and are way more powerful than these. But this is what a lidal looks like.
Interesting.
It's even coded the LA 61, lidal 61. So.
That isn't what I expected it to look like either. I
either.
had a picture of the
Like
the
spotlight.
big spotlights they have Hollywood.
No.
I did too. That's exactly
super simple. Inside, there you can see there's doors there on the side.
construction sites use them all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
This was the standard for generations in the at least in the Air Force of lighting something up in the dark out on the flight line.
Cool.
Well, there you go. So these things that we're looking at were failing like crazy, one right after the other, which makes no sense whatsoever.
yeah, they're designed to be super dependable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
very
they're
simple
sending
design.
guys. Yeah, they're sending guys back and forth. They're on the actual site, which is what you're seeing here. This is an actual photo from that night that was taken, and it's marking for you where they found the indentations where the supposed landing feet had been. Now, Peniston had said that what he saw wasn't an actual structure, that the legs were made of this pure solid light coming down and supporting the structure of this, whatever this thing was. They took
Initially, he
measurements.
didn't think it had landing gear at all because there was a glow coming from underneath of it. Plus that he didn't, until he looked closer, didn't realize that there may have been something there at all.
There's his original sketches from his police book at the time.
Yeah. Kind of initially thought it was just kind of hovering there because the whole underside had light coming out from underneath of it.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't too sure until he got up closer and saw that there were these light beam leg things going into the ground.
Yeah.
Which is interesting when you think about the fact that they said that the ground was frozen solid. We kind of talked about this backstage too. The ground was frozen solid, and there were some deep marks where the landing gear had settled on the ground. So it must have taken some pretty good weight, a
Yeah.
few tons to come down with that force.
They actually said 8. They claimed by the measurements they took that it would have taken 8 tons of force to create the indents in the dirt that they got.
Yeah. That's
So,
interesting.
I don't know. But so they're out there, and Bastenza is the one with the Geiger counters, and he's going around the whole area, and he notices that where the supposed landing gear had left those marks, the radiation levels went sky high. And then, of course, got lesser and lesser the more you got away from it, and then finally was completely gone by the time you got to that second berm that was kind of around the edge of that area there. They also took notice that there was almost like a perfect hole, they said, up above them in the trees, as if whatever this was kind of like just shoved broke the canopy out of its way straight down. And along the tree line, I think it's at 5 feet, I believe it was, there were burn marks in the trees all the way around it.
That's interesting.
Burns and scuff marks in the trees where
Yes,
parts of the
and
bark
scuff
were
marks.
scraped off, like
Yes.
this thing had settled straight down.
Mm-hmm. And those areas that had that bore those marks were also highly radioactive. As if whatever it had touched, it had suddenly...
Did you see any actual, like, in reference for, like, what's highly radioactive? The only thing I saw in my research about it was, like, 4 times above normal background, which isn't,
very high,
insanely high at all. But it would certainly be an indicator that there was something there. But it's not like, everyone on the scene died of cancer the following year or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, these guys, they're walking around.
Although that does come up later in the story for one person, for a couple of the people, actually.
The only place, like I said, that they found the highest reading was inside of those little burn marks in the ground. Everything else had minimal, but, still above what there should be. Hi, Sylvain. They said, England said that inside the divots where the landing gear was, it jumped to 7. Now, I don't know anything about Geiger counters, so you'll have to tell me if that's high.
Oops, I went too far. There we go.
I don't know what the scale they're using it to.
I don't either.
know what 7 means.
7 millirads? I don't know.
No.
Well, let's look.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that.
I don't know the readings, how it works. It does say before that, they were reading right at the center, not where the landing gear was at. They said, we're getting right at 0.5 millirem. But I don't see it getting any higher. And then they get to the hole, and he says it just jumped to 7.
7 millirem?
I guess. He doesn't say millirem because, it's just coming off of what was being heard.
Yeah.
Well,
that would be the assumption if you referred earlier.
Go ahead, Mark.
The average person receives about 300 millirem annually. So
it's about 10 a day.
Well, no, it's about 1 a day, actually.
Hey, I never claimed to be a mathematician.
A little less than 1 a day.
Or no basic math for that.
7 millirem would be significantly above background radiation.
But
still not dangerous.
I just did a super quick Google on this. A typical chest X-ray exposes you to approximately 2 to 10 millirem of radiation.
Oh, okay. So if it jumped to 7, it's a decent amount that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Not an immediately lethal thing, but you wouldn't want to take a nap.
Want to live there.
Yeah.
Well, I assumed that these weren't so high that they needed to leave because they had Geiger counters, and if it had hit a point that they needed to go, they would have. They would have been like, "We're out." Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so they're taking all this measurements and everything. getting all this stuff. They're having issues with people wanting to leave because they feel freaked out or they feel sick. They've got the weird fog, yellow fog going around, which there's a theory about we might talk about later on.
Ian said,
and
given
then
the atomic research that occurred at nearby Orford Ness, you would hope the entire area would have been checked periodically since the 50s. Yeah.
One would
maybe, but it would have been by UK, not the men on the U.S. base. So they may not know anything about that.
Guys with some radiation detectors.
So then they pull out the starlight scope. If you watched On the Fringe about a month or so ago, we talked about the starlight scope a little bit.
We did.
And the starlight scope was really interesting. They're looking around the area and they notice that the streaks left on the trees at about the 5-foot mark were warm. They were showing heat. Still. Just where the scuff marks were at.
Wow.
And this is 2 days after?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
2 nights after, yeah. And
So-
the ground is frozen.
Yeah.
Remember, it's so cold that the ground is frozen. So, hello, heat. How is that heat there? Interesting.
Okay.
Well, a little bit of
Something
radiation can
better,
certainly
too.
create a bit of heat.
Will that do that?
Look at the way they're dressed. They don't have like heavy overcoats and.
They're not in parkas or anything like that.
No.
Which, anywhere in the southern part of England, I don't think you would necessarily be wearing that. But I'm sure it was cool, for sure.
Oh,
And
enough for the
this is late December, so having frozen ground isn't out of the ordinary, I would think.
That's true.
They also got a slight increase of temperature in the landing area too, so it was kind of lit up just a little bit. So regardless, still staying.
That's unusual
Kind
for a
of-
couple days afterwards.
Yeah.
At this time, they had to completely refill all of the lidals again, even though they shouldn't have had to. So they oddly ran out of gas, which is really, really strange.
Those
that it would go
things,
through it
I've
that
seen them
much.
run for 12 hours on a tank of gas. That's unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's now 1:48 in the morning, and this is where, and excuse my language, but the shit hits the fan. So it happens all very, very quickly, and it starts out with the sound of just about every animal in the area, including the nearby farmers. There was 2 nearby farms that were just full of all sorts of cattle and other kinds of livestock. Just went insane. A cacophony of animal sounds. And they claimed making the most awful types of noises too, not even their normal sounds.
They're terrified.
Like they're terrified and they're screaming almost. And almost exactly the point that happened, all that return of that electrostatic kind of feeling in the air, that buzz, came right back into the area again. And if you've ever listened to our show before, you know this is the start of something insane getting ready to happen. And suddenly somebody in the area yelled, "Hey, look at that red thing over there." And here we go. It's back again.
Can you hear the lambs screaming canaries? That's what it makes me think of.
Holt described seeing this red thing that was hovering in the air in the field adjacent to the farmhouse and was about 220 yards off to the left. It said there were rainbow colors around the object or craft, and it was dripping something. The light that I saw was more like heat. It appeared to be so hot that sparks were flying off it in the colors of the rainbow, and it would change as you would see molten steel boiling. So it was as if this thing was moving around and it was just dripping metal so hot off of it, you could see it flashing all those colors that happens when something gets incredibly
So
hot.
many sightings worldwide of UFOs with like dripping metal coming off of them. My old friend Jamie from the old That One Time I Was Abducted by Aliens podcast would always see a picture like that where you would see the dripping, liquid metal coming off of it, you would always scream, "It's having babies!" You may not have been wrong. But,
that makes me think of Delphos too. When the craft lifted,
I had thought about that
Yeah.
because it was especially when it was jumping around like it was toying with them. That reminded me of the UFOs in the Delphos area
that chased people.
for months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
So
that I
this-
pulled up is the actual report from HALT that
Ah.
Jess is referring to.
maybe
Mhm.
difficult for folks at home to read. Is there
Yeah.
something in there that you want
It's
to?
hard for me to read.
It's
Shout
pretty
out,
much.
yeah.
I just popped it up. It's what Jess is talking about. How the object
Yeah.
itself had pulsing red light on the top and banks of blue lights underneath. It was hovering or on legs. As a patrolman approached the object, it maneuvered through the trees and disappeared. At this time, the animals on a nearby farm went into a frenzy. So yeah, this is pretty much what Jess has been referring to.
That third paragraph. Later in the night, a red sun-like light was seen through the trees. It moved about and pulsed. At one point, it appeared to throw off glowing particles and then broke into 5 separate white objects and then disappeared. That's bananas to even hear that, in an official, Air Force report.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why this whole thing still matters. You have all these military witnesses, and yes, a lot of them might have been the B team, but they had training. There were some experienced guys there. There were official written records. You had radar, radiation, and ground effects, and there's so much stuff going on. You can't come up with just one explanation for it.
Right.
You have to have like 50 different things to make it all make sense.
In fact, the headlines about this incident, they pointed that out. It's official. Was the big headline. There's UFO.
Well, even amongst some of the other, because Jim Peniston, who had the downloads and he touched the thing and blah, blah, blah. When he was doing his debrief later back at his work center, he said he filled out 4 pages of those yellow legal pads of everything he experienced, everything he saw, experienced. He didn't include the download part. He knew even at that point, don't do that part. But he still filled out everything else, the weird time anomaly, all that stuff. And he said later they came back with a document that looked like this. It was already pre-typed out for him, and it was less than half of like what we're seeing on the screen. And he's like, "What the hell is this?" It's like, "This is what you're going to tell everybody you said. Forget all the rest of that crap. This is what you said." Because another important thing to remember too is for all of these security forces people and stuff like that involved, is if they had nukes at that base, which it sounds like it is, the level of scrutiny all of those guys are under is way, way higher than just a regular place where they had, the Protection Reliability Program, PRP, or I may have that wrong, but that anybody who had anything to do with the nukes, whether it was a mechanic working on the plane that carried the nuke, whether it was security forces that guarded the nuke, or the plane that the nuke might have been on, they were all on this specialized program to where it was very, very strict about what you could and couldn't do. Like,
and the tower guys,
the tower, anybody that was on the PRP program, you couldn't even have anything above basic generic aspirin in your medicine cabinet. You couldn't like, "Oh, I got a headache, I'm going to take a Tylenol." No, you couldn't. That was against the rules. You could not have anything other than just super basic stuff. If you got a headache, you need to go to the hospital and get something prescribed to you. And during that time that you're prescribed whatever that pain-killing medication is, you are not on PRP anymore, meaning you can't be around aircraft, you can't be around. You basically, your job is riding a desk at that point. Yeah. So it was very, very serious that you're not chasing wacky lights out in the woods and seeing triangle craft and getting weird downloads. No, you went out, you saw some strange lights. Maybe it was that lighthouse over there, and then you called it a night. End of story.
Yeah.
One thing that we haven't showed yet is the sketches that Jim Peniston made of the symbols that were on the side of the craft.
Well, I think we should. I think we should get into that next time. We're gonna have to have a two-parter here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Kind of running out of time, aren't we?
We're running out of time. We haven't even finished the sightings yet, and let alone get into the theories or anything like that.
I'll drop that down.
So let's hold on to that. So let's get back into where we're at, because we're not done with this experience. It's gonna get crazier. So this floating red dripping ball of whatever is floating around this little barnyard area, and in fact at one point they were scared that it was going to set the farmhouse on fire because it was literally radiating like fire red across it, and they were like, we hope whoever's in there is not seeing this right now. Anyway, it starts to roll away and then it shoots off, completely disappears. All the sound comes back into the area, the weird buzziness in the air dissipates, and everyone kind of just, gets a breath of fresh air for a second, and they're like, oh, is this over with? And then someone goes, it's over there, and it's back behind them again, up above the trees. So they're turning to kind of head back in that way, and this is where the cat and mouse starts happening. This thing, I guess, decides to play with them, and it spends its time not only shooting up above the trees and then back down below the tree line again, but once it gets down below the tree line, it starts playing around the trees. It starts shooting in and out and around and back in again. At this point, they've got the second load of lidals that's come back in, and the crew that is trying to hurriedly get them set up to kind of catch what's happening here are just yelling because they can't even get the lidals to come on, the brand new, fresh ones that they've brought just now back from the base. And they're also saying that all of their stuff is malfunctioning. Even their flashlights they had to get the lidals started now won't come on. There's also 3 gentlemen who were leaving in trucks to go and get more supplies to kind of fix the lidals, and they could not get the trucks to start. So the vehicles aren't starting, the lidals aren't starting up, flashlights aren't working, and this thing is playing like tag in the bottoms of the trees.
So definitely something hinky going on.
You think?
Yeah.
I did go and look. From what I can tell, there was anywhere from 30 to 40 people on the ground in just that little area, and they all witnessed the same thing. So I don't know how you fake that.
Yeah.
Everyone having kind of the same experience from all different sides.
It would be hard to flashy thingy everybody.
Unregulated Tylenol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
In fact, at one point, many of them made mention in their reports that one of the superior officers was yelling at one of the men who were trying to get the lidals to start up. And one of them said to the other, said he didn't refuel them. And then somebody else yelled, yes, he did refuel them. And I took them down to the motor pool before we brought them out. So they're screaming at each other at this point.
A lot of finger pointing going on. Why isn't this working?
The chaos that has descended, which I don't blame them. Could you imagine all of that happening and you're just trying to get a light on so you can see?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it says, and the commotion started. People started getting excited. Some points people were running to the other points. I recall a couple of the airmen that actually cried and said that they were scared and that they were never coming back. And I had to calm a couple of them down and return them back to the checkpoint. Holy cow.
That's
crazy.
crazy.
They were crying.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I can see why they tried to cover this up a little bit, because the Marines would have had a heyday with this.
Well, Marines would have had a heyday with it, and any enemies that we have out there would be like, ooh, this is a very easy target, basically.
No, the Marines would have been shooting at it whether they had permission or not.
Yeah.
Aren't. No, they wouldn't have. They're very disciplined.
So insanity is ensuing. this thing zigzagging around the trees. The light elves aren't coming on. People can't start their trucks. They're hauling guys out of there who are crying their eyes out. And then the bulk of the yellow mist floats in. And this is one of the weirdest things that I have ever heard. And I found a couple of accounts of it so you can kind of get a general idea of what it was they were seeing. It said, we kept searching around the area, kind of trying to follow the object, when we came upon a yellow mist about 2 or 3 feet off the ground. It was like dew, but it was yellow, like nothing I've ever seen before. We kind of ignored it. We were worried about the object, so we couldn't see, trying to see if we could locate it again or catch up to it again. And down I found another one. It said, whilst trying to catch up with Halt's patrol, I saw lights moving through the trees, and the forest was bathed in this weird yellow mist rising about 2 to 3 feet off the ground, almost to knee height.
Yellow is so interesting.
Yeah, like a yellow mist or a yellow fog. They kept talking about this yellow fog that would
Maybe they're
pop up.
siphoning the gas out of the light elves.
Do you think that's what that is?
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I don't know if it'd be yellow though.
Is this part of the Larry Warren stuff?
nitrogen oxides or
So this is a little bit of everything. I was trying to pull from different... A lot of these are from Colonel Holt's team that went with him, like... Bustinza and stuff like that. Most of them are from there, but I also found a couple of like personnel that was on there with the Lidalls. Anytime I could find something that kind of attributed to the same thing, I tried to pull them all up into one spot so I could kind of see it and kind of get a view.
As time would go on, like into the 90s and stuff like that, there were other people that came forward to say, yeah, I was out there and this is what I saw, which doesn't necessarily match the story that we've heard so far from the your 3 or 4 primary witnesses, where Larry Warren being one of them, and some people have certainly, especially as time has gone on, think Larry Warren was just making stuff up and being a super grifter, that kind of a thing. But his story is certainly out there, and it does include this mist that came out there, where his stuff goes way off the rails, where he describes another craft and beings and things that they interact with, even with the Lidalls and stuff like that. I don't know if you want to get into that tonight or if you wanted to save that for next time. But
I will mention that most chemicals that could produce a yellow smoke are toxic and might have effects on the old senses.
That's one of the theories that I found, that it might have been something else.
I know it's not mustard
actually,
gas,
siphoned into the area.
They'd have been dead.
Yeah,
they'd be out.
Right, that.
Yeah. Okay, so all of this is going on. We've got the yellow mist. Everybody's trying to walk through. They're literally zigzagging through the woods trying to chase this thing. It pops back out in that original farmer's field that we were talking about before. It goes out into the middle of it. Here's where some of the stuff, the claims kind of split off a little bit. Colonel Holt said that he tried to climb over the fence to get into the field. Some of the other ones said he did. Some people said that he never climbed over, that no one ever did. But regardless, at this point, it's floating out in the middle of the field, and then suddenly there is a huge spark, and this thing bursts into 5 white objects and just disappears.
Right.
Which is interesting, because if you think about it, how many times do we see even nowadays where somebody will be recording something, a UFO in the air, and then it splits into, different lights come out of it. It splits into different ones. It's almost like they experienced that firsthand, like close up.
Yeah. So this is my favorite part of the whole story. I'm going to finish it up with what Colonel Holt said that it ended, because it's pretty hilarious. He says, I led my team out into the farmer's field where the lighted object was seen to try to find any evidence of residue, slag, burn marks, or anything left on the ground out there by that object, as it had been observed dripping something like molten metal. My team then climbed over the wire fence. There were actually 2 wire fences surrounding the farmer's field. and moved out into the field to search for sample evidence. However, the only evidence my team found in the field was cow pies. It was dark, and the team could not avoid stepping in a few. That's all they found. But you imagine, like, that thing just dripping stuff and then it explodes. To have found nothing in that field is insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know if you saw what I popped up. Ian said, certainly wouldn't be the first time the British government dropped chemicals over civilian areas. Yeah, yikes.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that in the next one, too.
Done it too, so, you know.
What if it was something that crashed and released toxic chemicals that caused hallucinations?
Well, that's one of the things we're going to talk about on the next one, because that's too much to get into. So, while this segment ends here, it doesn't really truly end, because almost as soon as they kind of got done looking at this field, somebody else said, "Hey, look." And they look up above and over towards the base. They can see, and it's conjecture, 3 to 5. It depends on who you're talking to. Grayish discs flying up really high in the sky. And I think that's probably where we need to leave this at, because we need to do notebook games and stuff.
The cliffhanger.
The cliffhanger.
There's still a lot to tell.
I mean, it is a fascinating incident. There's just so much to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so well documented.
It's well documented, which is what makes it so important when it comes to UFO reports and incidents and things like that.
Yeah. This one always amazes me because when I'd first heard of this, when I was much, much younger, Rendlesham was almost always included in those little booklets you could get at the library, like UFO sightings. They'd talk about Rendlesham, but they never really...
Here.
They never really talked about what it was all about. It was just that you heard that somebody had seen a UFO in the forest.
Yeah.
And that was about all there was to the story.
It didn't go into detail.
No,
Well,
but as I got...
Much like, some of the stories we hear from people today where you get, military Top Gun type pilots that are talking about Tic Tacs and things like that. It's the credibility of that pilot, that rank of that. Yeah. This, where you've got the vice wing or vice base commander out there with an audio recorder saying, "Yeah, there's something weird going on out in these woods."
That's pretty credible. So very cool.
Yeah. So excuse me. I was away from the microphone. It's gonna get weirder. We have even more
exponentially weirder for where we're leaving off. Yeah.
I find nothing wrong with that statement.
We still have this next incident with the flying saucers up in the air. We have a few more even incidents to go after that. And then we're going to have to start getting into all the weirdness that went along with it. We've got the hieroglyphics that were found on the side of the plane, and some binary code that's going to pop up.
Yeah.
The disinformation that was happening on the base. We're going to have conspiracy theories. Was it a UFO? Was it alien? Was it government related? Were they testing on people? Was that what the yellow mist was? We're going to get into all sorts of stuff, but I figure if we dip into it now, we're just going to...
We'll be 4 hours.
Yeah.
Easy. We'll shoot ourselves in the foot. So we'll end it for now and start it back up in 2 weeks, which we kind of needed to do anyway. Pam and I haven't come up with what we were going to do next in the next show.
Yeah.
So.
No, this is a big one. This will be fun.
Yeah, this one deserves the time. I agree.
It does. Yeah. I would agree with that.
Plus, it'll give me time to read those other 2 books I couldn't get to.
Right.
Yeah. I was so sad because I missed out on books. Just to let you know, what's it called? The Rendlesham Enigma. Fantastic book. Peniston, along with some of the other ones that were involved with it, wrote the book, and they bring you a lot of the reports, the formal reports that were put in, their own stuff, stuff they pulled from all over the place. But man, it is a hunkin' book. It's about 1,000 pages long.
Oh, good Lord.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that big.
Yeah, it's big. Yeah.
Holy cow. And I was just this whole week just pouring through it as fast as I could, just speed reading and looking for pertinent topics coming in and out, and but it looks at it from like, they'll pick like 5 different people that were at that incident and like show it from all their point of views, and then they'll go back and say, well, then if this guy said this, then it must mean this, and it's just it was a big bite to chew. So
Yeah.
Sounds
I'll
like
get
it.
the opportunity to read some of the other books.
Cool.
Excellent.
Yay! All right.
So, everybody in the chat, are we ready for the notebook game? Woohoo. Yep.
They're heavy with importance.
So, drop in book 1 through 5 and then page 1 through 100. And we'll see what little nuggets of goodness
Weirdness.
Jess can come up with.
Goodness.
Goodness? Weirdness? Good weird.
Weirdness.
Weird good? Good weird. We have a book 2, page 25.
The
Is
date.
that marker Phil?
It's me.
Okay. Cheater.
I am. I'm fast on the keyboard.
He had it pre-programmed. All he had to do was hit.
Time
I'm
runs
actually
fast
better
with
on the 10
OCR.
key than I am the actual keyboard. So
Okay. So this is on Bonnice Cemetery in Prague.
Mm.
I think this is when we were looking into like haunted cemeteries.
Where we bury him.
neat.
Maybe. Or it could just be my own research. I don't know. The Bonnice Cemetery in Prague, it's also called the Cemetery of Fools, opened in 1906, the designated resting place for deceased patriots of the next door insane asylum. That's fun. The insane asylum itself at one point housed 2,000 patients and also had the Bonnice Psychiatric Hospital right next door. So we got all sorts of good stuff starting here. The very first burial there was an 11-year-old boy named Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian Serb student who assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand,
Oh,
heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, and his wife in 1914, which led to the outbreak of World War I. Oh, we get a little history.
There you go.
Yeah. It also contained Otli Vranska, a murdered prostitute who was famously found cut up into small pieces, packed into 2 suitcases, and shipped separately on trains to a station in Prague.
holy moly.
Her murderer was never caught. However, one of the suspects was detained at the asylum where he committed suicide, named Sergeant Pavlicek. He's also buried there.
Yikes.
Yeah. It also contains 48 deceased refugees with mental disorders from World War I, most having died of typhoid fever. The asylum and cemetery closed in 1963, although a few burials occurred through the 1970s. During the 80s, it was used for satanic rituals, crosses were removed and scraped for their iron, and most of the headstones taken and used for walkways, steps, and foundations for houses and buildings.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I remember the picture.
Many burials were caving in, and with the overgrowth and discarded junk piles, it had become dangerous to walk around in. It recently has been revitalized, cleaned up, and they have begun tours. Reports there are strange feelings, aches, anomalies with cell phones and cameras, hot and cold spots, strange noises, and lights.
Sounds like a delightful place to spend a Sunday afternoon.
Doesn't it?
Heck yeah!
Let's go at midnight on Friday the 13th.
Woo!
Sure.
No.
I don't know how that goes for you.
Same book, right? Book 2, page 6?
Yes. Sylvain, book 2, page 6,
Wow.
please.
Easy.
Ah! Wait, is that a straw?
It is
That
a
was-
straw. It's safe until you put your thumb over the end and
No air can get.
Ah. Okay, so we have a theme tonight.
Oh boy.
Not with the cemeteries. So just so you know, this is actually my encounter with that triangle-shaped UFO that went over my... That's it.
That's great.
I've never read this out loud before.
We've talked about it. You just never read what you wrote.
Okay. I'm going to leave out my address. I don't want to say my address online because I wrote down all my information on it. It says Jessica Holman, Thursday, November 24th, 2022, about 10:20 p.m. I decided to take the trash out before I headed to bed. I went out my front door, which is west facing, and headed north to my trash can around the corner of my home. I dumped the trash in, turned back towards my front door. I looked up and noticed how bright the stars were and decided to step a few feet out into the yard to get a better look. I kind of scanned around and a movement caught my attention in the southwestern portion of the sky. It was very dark, darker than the sky around it, and it didn't seem very big. I think the ambient light from my street light and my porch light was what was allowing me to see it at all. At first I thought it might be a really big bird, but that didn't make sense, since birds aren't usually out that late, and the shape, although I couldn't make it out exactly, didn't look bird-like. I considered maybe a drone, but it had a flattish underside to it, and it was dead quiet, which didn't make sense because drones are so loud, with their propellers whirring. It was moving towards me and started to become clearer. It seemed to be triangle-shaped as it came over the top of me. I realized on the back area there were 3 dim lights moving around in a wave pattern. The triangle was turning at the same time that it was moving forward. It was dark, so guessing how high up it was is hard to say. I'm guessing around 50 feet or so. I would guess it was around the size of a car or smaller. As it got just overhead, it took a curved path that took it north of Caney. At this point, it got over my head. It took that curve super fast, so fast I couldn't believe it. It was shocking to me. I lost sight of it very quickly. I stayed outside another 2 minutes or so looking all around to see if it would come back or if there was another one. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. I decided to run inside and grab my phone and call Pam Ernest because I just had to tell someone my experience. I was so unnerved. My husband was home but was sick, so I didn't want to bother him, and I certainly wasn't going to tell my daughter and scare her too. I ran back out and called Pam and gave her the details before I forgot. She suggested that I write it all down. I continued to look while I talked with Pam, but didn't see anything more. I retreated back inside when someone came walking down my street. I suddenly felt so scared and unnerved. I will note that it took the exact same route as the last odd thing I and my husband had seen a month earlier. That sighting will be included next to this one. I will also say that I have never been so unnerved as I was witnessing this thing. I felt very unsafe and watched, and it felt like it was purposely timed for me to see it, like it was planned. But I was also in awe at the same time. I checked to make sure all my door and windows were locked and all the shades down, which I did.
I just remember you going, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I
gotta
go.
Oops. Let me see. I get it.
Oh,
look at that.
Yeah. So you can see here, so it had lights, 1, 2, 3 on the back of it. And as it like floated through the air, the lights were like super dim. Like I thought my eyes were kind of playing tricks on me. I was even wondering if they were there at all or if I was just catching a light off the back end of it.
Yeah.
But the lights looked like they were doing this, like they were doing a little wave on the back of it.
Interesting.
And I kind of remember, I think I wrote, lights seem to move in a wave, almost like looking through heat waves. Like that look when it just kind of...
Yeah. Almost like a mirage kind of thing.
Yeah. But there you go. Now you guys got to hear my actual...
It's way different from mine. Mine, I had no lights. It was just blocking out stars.
Yeah.
That's all I saw.
Well, like, see, to this day, I'm not sure if it did. Like, was I just seeing the light from maybe the moon or something glimmering off the back end of it? And maybe it was hot and I was seeing it. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Wow.
Interesting.
It is one of those things, like with my experience with it is I was under the impression the lights, because I was close to the center of Wichita, which is a ton of light pollution. I was under the impression the only reason I could sort of see the black triangle that I saw was the lights from the city were kind of underlit the entire thing. Because the thing I saw had no lights on it, but it was blocking out stars as it went by. That's the only reason I know it.
Yeah.
So I get it as far as just not being sure what exactly you're looking at, during the entire experience.
I mean, you're still, by the time it's gone, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't above me for very long at all. You're still processing it like an hour later. Mm-hmm. So
you'll be processing that for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, you can't, when you see something completely out of the ordinary, something you've never seen before, your brain just can't.
Short circuits a little bit because there's no reference.
There's nothing to, reference it to. Exactly. There's nothing to reference it to. So your brain can't make those connections and you're just like, Yeah. Anyway, weird. Okay. So Julie's, let's move on here. Julie's is on the Legend of Ghost Hollow in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. Shortly after the Civil War, a young couple from Fort Smith moved into a 2-story log cabin that stood on Fayetteville's East Mountain. On their wedding night, before removing her wedding gown, she had leaned over the fireplace to stir the fire, and a spark caught her dress on fire. She ran hysterically from the home, fully ablaze, into the wooded hollow behind the home. She set the hollow and the home both ablaze, which both burnt to the ground. Shortly after her untimely demise, rumors circulated that you could still hear her screams coming from the hollow at night. Near the cabin was the Judge Walker property and home, also said to be haunted. Shortly after the judge's death, several household employees told of seeing his ghost descending the staircase. The home's well is also haunted. It was believed a Tantra Babu, which is kind of like a hate, like a
hatred.
A monster ghost,
Yeah.
I guess you could say. It's kind of a mix, a monster ghost.
Yeah.
Lived in the well, and that if anyone looked down into the well, they would be charmed by the evil monster, fall in, and be devoured by it. The family reportedly always looked up while they drew water from that particular well. Yeah, so Fayetteville's nearby little mountain, I think it's just to the east of Fayetteville, is known to be haunted and has been since before the town was even there. It's one of those spots.
Interesting.
Sounds like a great place to put a town.
Right?
Well, it wasn't on the mountain. The mountain's beside Fayetteville. It's kind of like on the edge.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right, we've got Ian's
Notebook
next.
one. No, Ginger is.
Nope.
Notebook
Ginger is
one,
the next
page
page.
83. Yeah, she's the next page.
The next page.
Yeah.
Raining
Is that by design?
Lemmings.
Just literally the next page.
That's cool.
That's fine by me. I didn't have to hunt. Raining Lemmings in Alaska. I think we've talked about this before, or maybe it was on Fringe. I don't remember.
I remember hearing about it. I can't remember what show it was.
Well, we're gonna read it
I
again.
think it was.
So I'm gonna read whatever's on
on.
it. While staying in Nome, Sally Carragher, explorer naturalist, was hoping to catch a few lemmings to take back to California. She was told by Eskimos that the creatures often drifted down slowly from the skies. Proof of this was that their tracks began abruptly in the snow. She didn't take the story seriously until one day in April 1952. The Eskimo postmaster at Ucluelet informed her that a few of the creatures had dropped down at the end of the town's airship. And this is an excerpt from her book, Wild Voice of the North, from 1952. The blacktop was covered with less than an inch of new, light, soft snow, too shallow for any lemmings to tumble under, without thrusting up a ridge on the surface. And there indeed were the mysterious little trails, just as the Eskimos had described them. In 15 places, a track began rather faintly for a couple inches, as if an animal had come down and gently coasted onto the snow. The tracks then continued more deeply, the individual footprints showing clearly, and also the slight brush marks between the footprints where the little hairs on the lemmings' feet dragged. In each case, the tracks led off the blacktop to a clump of grass where the lemmings evidently had burrowed down among the roots. Note, the native peoples living within the Arctic Circle called lemmings Kailung Mutuks, or mice from the sky, and that they fall in descending circles that rotate clockwise, and that they all fall from a distant star.
If mice fell from the sky, I would be a little concerned.
Yeah, I would be like, no, thank you.
Yeah,
Keep
not
your
a fan of that at
sky
all.
rodents.
Reptile
Keep your
food.
sky rodents to yourself.
Ooh.
We've got book 5.
The next one's Ian. Yeah, book 5, page 74. That was an
Ian's still with us. I guess he did okay with the pronunciations. He's still able to type.
Either
So-
that or he can really hold his liquor. One or the other.
Well, there is that.
Either. I mean,
This is part of the Mandelas. It's part of the Mandela listings. Because I've got pages and pages and pages of it. It's going to pop up.
It's a separate book, I would imagine.
I've got them in because we keep revisiting it, or I'll find a whole new spat. We'll have a spat of them. A whole brand new set will come out, and I'll just grab whatever notebook's near me that's got empty pages in it. I just start hitting it.
Like
On this one, paratrooper mice. Sky rodents. I don't want nothing to do with them. Mm-mm.
I mean, they do make sky rodents. They're called bats.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
I like bats. I think they're
not
cute.
fan.
I want a pet one.
So here is on this page. I'm just going to list what's on this page of these Mandelas, and remember whether it's different to you or not. It's different to somebody someplace. So don't poo-poo everything. On this one, we have the North Pole, not on land or ice anymore, now in the middle of the ocean. And I think that just becomes because when you're little, you see the North Pole with Santa, and so you always assume there's the North Pole, and then you see Santa's buildings back behind or something. I think that's why people assume that it's in the middle of a ice or land.
And it does move all the time.
So the space shuttle, the solid rocket booster, is now two-toned orange with a band and is two-pointed on the top, they say. It doesn't look correct anymore.
Really? That's interesting.
I mean, some of those boosters looked different from some of the other ones. So,
Shiva. How many arms does Shiva have?
6.
She's got
I was gonna
9.
guess 8.
Not 9. I don't know.
Now she only has 4.
Don't have an odd number.
She has 4? I thought she had more than that.
She did. She did. I know she did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kurt Cobain's pink coat never existed.
I beg to differ.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, Tony said 8 arms on Shiva too.
Captain Picard's crystal on his desk. He says if you go back and look at it now, it's in over 70 episodes, but no one remembers it ever being there. It's like a new thing that's popped up on his desk from the old episodes. Yeah.
Now I have to look. I don't remember a
I
crystal.
think people were paying too much attention to the dialogue and just didn't notice it.
The famous picture of Bruce Springsteen with his back turned to us on his album, what was tucked in his back pocket?
Bandana.
A red bandana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope, it's a hat.
No, that was a bandana.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was. I remember that too, but now it's a hat. You'll have to go look at it. Judge Judy has never had or used a gavel.
I don't know.
Really?
Really? No gavel.
So she just does it all with her voice.
Uh-huh. Yep. The Seven Dwarf song, Off to Work, is now Home from Work We Go.
What? No.
Off to work we go.
It's Home from Work We Go.
Why would they say that as they were going to the mines?
I don't know, but it's changed.
What you talking about, Will?
Do you guys remembered what happened when they played the War of the Worlds radio broadcast in 1938?
Yeah. A lot of people
The mass
freaked out
panic?
in Grover's Mill. They shot at some rednecks shot at a water tower, thinking it was one
Yeah,
of the
if you go
aliens'
and look
craft.
now, none of that ever happened. There was never a mass panic.
That's the whole reason anybody even remembers the
Exactly.
world of the.
But if you
War
go
of the
back and look
Worlds.
at the history of it, it now says that there was never a mass panic, that was just made up.
Oh no, there
mean,
was definitely mass panic.
The level of it, sure, it wasn't like a nationwide, people all over the United States freaking out. There were
You don't have
certainly
to-
isolated pockets.
Yeah, you don't have to convince me. This is a Mandela.
That is a hat.
Yeah. Now it's a hat. They're changing everything on purpose.
Butthead.
The last thing on this page is the Karate Kid's bandana. Do you guys remember what the Karate
sun
Kid's
on
bandana
it.
looked like?
It was red
Well, it
with the
wasn't.
sun on it, wasn't it?
No, it was like an orchid plant in dark blue with a white thing. That's what I remember.
I remember.
So most
Yes.
people remember it like Pam does, a red rising sun. However, now it's a black and white flower.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't ever remember it being a sun. Why would it be a sun?
Black
I
and white
remember
flower is actually.
It had a
I mean-
sunburst that came up over the right there.
I don't know.
Karate Kid?
I'm going to admit something that's probably going to get me hate mail. I was
Uh-oh.
never ever able to make it all the way through the movie because it was so terrible.
That's all right.
Interesting. Maybe I just haven't
Yep.
seen it recently. Here, I'll pull
I
it
don't
up.
know.
I mean,
I pulled it up on the wrong screen. Hang on.
I don't remember it being ever a sun thing. It was always an orchid.
Yeah, this is.
Well,
now that
Maybe
I
you came
see
from
it,
a different line from us when you first saw that.
Or maybe he's from a different planet.
Probably.
Shh. Yeah, there you go.
Hmm. See, I don't remember it. It was red.
yeah.
I don't remember any color like that to it. It was always. I always thought it was blue. I didn't realize it was black, but I can see that.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I mean, from the way it's folded, it could look like a sun.
Wax on, F off. I love it.
Well, regardless, it's pointless of us debating it because it's a Mandela. It's different for everybody. It's really
I
weird.
remember that.
Yep.
So strange.
All right. I didn't see anybody else. Do we have anybody else? I don't think
that
we
was
do.
it.
That was it.
That's
All
funny.
right.
I did get yelled at for.
That's all right, because we're
Sorry,
a little
Julie.
over time anyway. So before everybody leaves out really quick, thank you for hanging out in the chats and playing the notebook game with us. We're really excited about this topic. And like I said, we've got so much more to do on Rendlesham. So
Oh.
join us again.
We're
Yeah,
getting
and-
into the we're going into the weeds next time. It's,
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so join us back in 2 weeks, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. I think it's March 11th. We'll do the second part of Rendlesham and hopefully get
March
it finished
11th.
up. But man, we're going to get into the exciting stuff. The crazy
Oh, yeah,
talk.
we got time travel, we got ancient sites, we got reappearing islands. We've got a lot of stuff coming up next time.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So join us then. Thank you, of course, to Enzo and Mark from coming on and hanging out with us. And we'll see you again, guys, in 2 weeks, too. And, of course, stick around on Monday and watch The Fringe at 7 p.m. I'm not even sure
Part
what we're doing.
2 of Out of Place
Oh, yeah.
Structures.
That's right.
That's right. Another part 2.
Woohoo!
And I've got a really good one for the next one. I've already started researching, so it's going to be fun.
Cool.
Ooh, cool. All right. So, really quick, if you haven't done it yet, like, share, subscribe, bell, all the fun buttons. Do those. Give us a rating if you're listening on a podcast provider. We appreciate you all. Everybody have a fabulous night. Keep it weird, keep it strange, and remember, it's all connected. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.